just go over there and read the. Okay. All right. You guys can see the text, right?
Hmm.
Okay, it's streaming. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we finished the introduction. We finished the discussion about Abu Hanifa, the how um, even Aqidah has schools, transmissions, people that you received it from. Okay, and we also mentioned the idea of the Isnad that every thing in Islam it's transmitted. It's transmitted from scholar to scholar, from chest to chest, person to person, and not from book to book. Okay? The books are just a side thing. It's a side thing. It's they're just notes, which is why if you read, any type of classical books, they're not very well organized because they're not really putting that much time and effort into, the books are just sort of scraps, notes, things that you're using on the side. Um, but it's really the person-to-person connection that the way that this deen was passed down. Okay? This is why Imam Shafi'i's Ar-Risala is one of the first well organized and effective books in the history of Islam. Okay, and it shook up the Islamic world because he presented this coherent idea of how to interpret Islamic law. Okay, usul al-fiqh. It's not that people before him didn't know how to do that. The Hanafis were doing it way before him, right? It's just he presented a nice book, like chapters, headings, comments, like a book that we would know today, okay? And it shook up the Hanafis because the Hanafis, they were just because he really wrote it to, you know, put an axe into the Hanafis and the Malikis, right? Um, and then the Hanafi started writing those types of books, okay? But they had it before, obviously. And then also, I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but Sibawayh, okay? So why did, the Arabic that we learn today, the curriculum, okay, and the grammar, the morphology, all those things were debated a lot. There were different schools of Arabic grammar in Baghdad and Iraq, right? All these different schools. Sometimes they would have gangs, and some of the students of this grammarian would go beat up the other students, to prove a grammar point. Okay, so I mean, this was a very high level of a society, right? Where the gangs are fighting over Arabic grammar. Okay, not over drugs or not over drugs or something else. Okay. But either way, Sibawayh, a Persian, he's the one, his school is the one that reigns supreme now. Everyone writes their books as an imitation of Sibawayh. And the reason is because Sibawayh wrote the first, coherent, nice, like chapter heading, all these like, nicely laid out a system of Arabic grammar. He's the first one who did that. Okay. He spent 30 years in field research in the desert. He came back. He did that. Like he thought he knew so much, okay? Like he was the Imam of his era. And then one of his opponents, I think Al-Asma'i, sorry, I'm going off topic, but this is a really funny story, okay? Actually, it's kind of sad, but it's still interesting. One of his opponents, there was a very famous debate by Sibawayh and Al-Asma'i, okay? And during that debate, there was a standstill. There was like is this allowed to be said in Arabic versus this? So they had a standstill. Okay, they had sort of a draw, and then some people say that Asma'i, he actually bribed a Bedouin Arab. Okay, and then so the Bedouin Arab suddenly came into the debate hall. So Sibo was like, "Oh, there's a Bedouin right there. Ask him. He's gonna know." And so they asked him, and guess who the Bedouin sided with? Anyone? The
The
Bedouin sided with Asma'i and not Sibawayh. Okay, because some people say that Asma'i bribed the guy. Okay, so the Khalifa ruled in favor of Asma'i and Sibawayh lost the debate. So then he got so depressed that he died a couple months later, unfortunately. So that's the story of Sibawayh. But we use his structure of Arabic all over the world today. Okay, back to the topic. So قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين آمين. Does anyone want to read the English? I'll read the Arabic for you guys, but raise your hand if you want to read the English or if you volunteer. Anyone?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay, okay, inshallah. Okay, so I'll just read the Arabic first. نقول في توحيد الله معتقدين بتوفيق الله إن الله واحد لا شريك له ولا شيء مثله ولا شيء يعجزه ولا إله غيره قديم بلا ابتداء دائم بلا انتهاء لا يفنى ولا يبيد ولا يكون إلا ما يريد لا تبلغه الأوهام ولا تدركه الأفهام ولا يشبهه الأنام حي لا يموت قيوم لا ينام خالق بلا حاجة رازق بلا مؤنة مميت بلا مخافة باعث بلا مشقة ما زال بصفاته قديما قبل خلقه لم يزدد بكونهم شيئا لم يكن قبلهم من صفاته وكما كان بصفاته أزليا كذلك لا يزال عليها أبديا. Okay, I think this should be enough. This is about halfway through, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Bismillah. Regarding the oneness of Allah, believing with Allah's help, we say Allah is one without any partner. There is nothing like him, nothing can overwhelm him. There is no God other than him. He is eternal, without a beginning, everlasting, without an end. He will never perish or cease to be. Nothing happens except what he wills. Imaginations cannot conceive him, nor can intellects comprehend him. He does not resemble created beings. He is living and never dies, the all sustaining and never sleeps. He creates without any need, provides without any effort. He gives death without any fear and resurrects without any difficulty. More, right?
Yeah, just this.
He has eternally existed with his attributes before his creation. Their coming into being did not add anything to his attributes that was not there before. Just as he was with his attributes in pre eternity, so he will remain upon them for all eternity.
جزاك الله. Okay, so we'll begin with نقول في توحيد الله. We are Imam Tahawi is saying our statement regarding نقول we say about التوحيد توحيد في توحيد الله. So regarding the oneness of Allah, so he's saying this entire thing is about the explanation of the oneness of Allah. معتقدين believing بتوفيق الله. Okay, so just a quick comment here. So we're going to discuss the topic of Tawheed today. And Imam Tahawi also says, معتقدين بتوفيق الله, that we have conviction in this بتوفيق الله. So معتقدين means we believe in the heart. So Tawheed, we can get from this, is a belief in the heart. Okay? A certain belief in the heart. It's not an action, it's not like a speech, whatever it is, it's a it's a belief in the heart. بِتَوْفِيقِ اللَّهِ, with the tawfiq of Allah. So, and we also believe as Muslims that this belief in the heart or the circumstances to allow you to believe, these come from Allah as well. Okay? The decision to believe ultimately is from you, right? It is your choice, your will that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. But there's something called at-tawfiq. At-tawfiq is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever you want, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will aligns with it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables you to actually go through with it. Or else there's something called khidlan, which is diverting you away from what you want, right? You might want something good, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow it to happen. Okay, he does not give you the tawfiq to do it, and this could be out of justice. This could be because you have nifaq, like we might have hypocrisy in our hearts, whatever it may be, right? So Imam al-Tahawi acknowledges that our belief in Tawheed, the proper belief in Allah, it can only come about because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to have this belief. He facilitated these outcomes for us, and those of us who we might not have been religious, or even for those of us who newly entered the faith, we know this reality, right? I mean, there are certain circumstances that sort of guided us towards belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those circumstances are there, they're put there by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything has a reason. Okay? So he says, Inna Allah wahidun, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is uniquely one. La sharika lahu, and that he has no partners at all alongside him. Wala shay'a mithluhu, and nothing is comparable to him. Wala shay'a yu'jizuhu, nothing can overwhelm him. Wala ilaha ghayruhu, and there's no other God other than him. Okay, so now let's go back to our presentation here. And we have to understand how powerful the idea of Tawheed is. Okay, and it is the most virtuous thing in Islam. When we talk about the list of virtuous deeds in Islam, okay, list of virtuous deeds, virtuous qualities, okay, virtue. Can you guys name me like a virtue in Islam? Something that is like ethically good, that Islam considers ethically good, like a value.
Charity,
Charity, good, charity. Anyone else?
honesty,
Honesty. Okay, good. Anything else?
Respect.
Respect. Good. So there are all of these things go back to some central values that are sort of accepted by everyone as the foundations of virtue. Okay? That if someone has these things, they're a virtuous person. And traditionally, we have, what's called the four cardinal virtues, right? So courage, wisdom, chastity, um, someone said charity, right? Courage, wisdom, chastity, and I forget the last one. I think is it love, courage, wisdom, chastity, and no, sorry, it's and justice. Okay, courage, wisdom, chastity, and justice. So all the virtues that you guys mentioned, honesty, all those things, they flow from these core virtues. Okay, this is like sort of the old Aristotelian understanding of virtue theory. And today, still, the Catholic Church and a lot of traditional people, like they still believe in this uh, this makeup. And what's really interesting, okay, what's really interesting, you can see that Allah is the creator of human beings. In China, in the Confucian world, you find these four as well, which is really interesting. But they add one more, which is called filial piety. Okay? So devotion to your parents, to your family. Okay? So in their system, I think you should never ever go against your family no matter what, even if they commit something wrong. Okay? So that's in the Confucian system. But anyway, but most of it is very much similar. Okay? Now, what's interesting is that in Islam, yes, these are all virtues. That's great. But these are not the core virtues. These are not the core virtues. Okay? The core virtue is only two things. Only two things. And everything else flows from them. One of them is Iman. Iman. Having belief in the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the fundamental core virtue. Okay? And that eclipses any other virtue. Any other virtue. Because Iman leads to amana. This is the second core virtue. Okay, if you guys want to write this down. Actually, I won't test you on this actually, because this is I didn't put that in the slide, right? The second core virtue is what? Amana. Does anyone know what amana is? Amana?
trust,
Trust, good, right? Stewardship, trustworthiness, understanding that the things in the world, the phenomenal experience that we have, these are all a trust. Trust from whom? It goes back to Iman. Trust, it's all a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you see how every other virtue flows from this. So you would do charity. Why would you do charity? Because you have faith in Allah, Iman, and the things in the world, they're a trust. So the wealth that you have is a trust. It's given to you. So you can't just hoard it. You have to give it out as commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to be honest. Why? Iman. You have the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is al-haq, who is the truth. Okay? And so you have to live your life with the truth. Okay? What was the other thing somebody else mentioned? Honesty, charity. But whatever the case, right? Every other virtue flows from these two virtues. Iman, which is the belief in the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And having a proper belief in Allah, and al-amana, which is the result of Iman. And if you look at the seerah, the mission of the seerah, okay, the journey, the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first phase of the seerah in Mecca, it was to develop Iman. You don't really get societal laws. You don't get like, laws of divorce, all this other different things like laws of trade and selling. You don't get these in Mecca. Okay? You don't get these in Mecca because that first phase was to develop Iman, the virtue of Iman, the virtue of Sidq, of honesty. Who is the greatest figure from the Meccan period among the Sahaba? Who was like the most virtuous person from among the Sahaba at that time?
Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu.
Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. What was his name? Like his title?
As-Sadiq.
As-Siddiq. You see? So the product of the Meccan phase is Sidq. Okay, Sidq is teaching people Iman and Sidq. So this is the great virtue. And then the Medinan phase, the purpose is to teach al-amana, is to teach trustworthiness. Okay, it's to teach stewardship of of your society, of your planet, based on that Iman. And who is described with both of these qualities? Sadiq al-Amin. Who was that? Which person was described with both of these qualities? That he is Sadiq, he has perfect Iman, and he is Amin. He's
Prophet
the
Sallallahu Alaihi
truthful.
Wasallam.
The Prophet ﷺ, exactly. So prophets have these two core virtues. Okay. And Dr. Taha Abdul Rahman, he says, like, if you want to teach your children two virtues, there's so many virtues, so many different things to teach your children. And it's kind of confusing. How do you parent your kids? What do you teach them? These are the two core virtues you have to teach. Sidq, honesty, faith in Allah, right? Faith in Tawheed, and amana, trustworthiness. And everything else flows from that. Okay? And to prove that to you, let's look at a very famous hadith. Okay? Very famous hadith. So anyone want to read this for me?
I can read
Yeah, go ahead.
it. Narrated
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
narrated Abdullah bin Amr bin al-As that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Indeed, Allah will distinguish a man from my ummah before all of creation on the day of judgment. 99 scrolls will be laid out for him. Each scroll is as far as the eye can see. Then he will say, 'Do you deny any of this? Have those who recorded this wronged you?' He will say, 'No, O Lord.' He will say, 'Do you have an excuse?' He will say, 'No, O Lord.' So he will say, 'Rather, you have a good deed with us, so you shall not be wrong today.' Then he will bring out a card, bitaqa. On it will be, 'I testify to La ilaha illallah, and testify that Muhammad is his servant and messenger.' He will say, 'Bring your scales.' He will say, 'Oh Lord, what good is this card next to these scrolls?' He will say, 'You shall not be wrong.' He said, 'The scrolls will be put on a pan of the scale, and then the card on the other pan. The scrolls will be light, and the card will be heavy. Nothing is heavier than the name of Allah.'"
In the name of Allah. So it's a beautiful hadith. It's called the hadith of the card, the hadith of the bitaqa, to show you the power of La ilaha illallah. And this will happen to only one person from among the ummah of the Prophet. Okay, so don't think like, oh, I could just do whatever I want and like live my life full of sin and then inshallah on the day of judgment, Allah will put my La ilaha illallah and I'll go to Jannah. No, no, no. This
Damn it.
right? This is only going to happen to one person, okay? And we don't know the secret of that person. We don't know why, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses him. Maybe it's just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show the rest of creation how powerful the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and how amazing his mercy is, right? Maybe it can happen to multiple people. We don't know, right? But we should never depend on it. But this is just to show you how important the Tawheed and La ilaha illallah is, that there will be a person on the day of judgment who's, the 99 scrolls, okay? The scrolls of his deeds. I mean, just sins and sins and sins, okay? Just laid out in front of him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, like, like, is this, did the angels mess up? Like, what happened here? And then the person will be like, no, like, this is all mine, you know? I did all of this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, do you have an excuse? Like, will you defend yourself? And the person says no. Khalas, I mean, I'm done. I'm cooked. It's over. Okay? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brings a good deed that this person had, just one good deed. And it's La ilaha illallah written on a card, meaning that this person, he had La ilaha illallah in his heart. And then he places it, he puts the 99 scrolls of sins on one side, and he places this tiny card on the other side, and La ilaha illallah is heavier than the rest of it. Okay? As the Prophet says that nothing is heavier than the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this person's forgiven and sent to Jannah. So this shows us the power of Tawheed. Tawheed, yes, it's a belief, but all of our actions flow from our beliefs. Okay? All of our actions flow from our beliefs. And this belief is the most important thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Um, and the scholars say that on the Day of Judgment, okay, on the Day of Judgment, really, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to do this to you, to actually ask you about the details, okay, of your deeds, if you actually got hisab, okay, what we'll call hisab, the accounting of your deeds, you're done. You're destroyed. Okay? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because think about it, a judge on if you come before a judge, okay, and they have all of the evidence, okay, and the judge is going through each evidence one by one with you. How do you think the case is going to turn out? And they're being a real stickler, like, were you there on this day? Were you, you said this, but then on the other day you said this. How do you think you're gonna fare?
Yeah, you're
No.
cooked.
You're done, right? You're done. You can't the judge has all the information, and it's just up to you to defend yourself. So, on the day of judgment, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually does hisab for us, we're done. We're done. Okay? It means we're gonna be in the hellfire. So this is why His mercy, 99 parts of His mercy is shown on the Day of Judgment. That for the believers, the ones um good deeds outweigh their bad deeds, actually the hisab that Allah does for them, it's like, it's sort of expedited. Okay? That Allah won't look at a lot of things. Okay? He won't look at a lot of things. This is why the Prophet says in a famous hadith that whoever hides the fault of his Muslim brother, Allah will hide his faults on the Day of Judgment. You see? So the good deeds, some of the good deeds, the attitudes that we had in this world, Allah will take that into account. And will lighten the hisab. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to lighten our hisab, right? Um, I mean. Okay, so now let's talk about Tawheed. So Imam Junaid, he said that it is a reality in which all outward traces disappear and all knowledge passes away, while God Most High remains as He always has been. So Tawheed, the true understanding of Tawheed is that nothing can ever exist anywhere, anything, there's nothing at all except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is true existence. Okay? Everything else is a derived existence. Everything else derives its existence from the power of Allah. Allah created it, right? But the true solid existence is only Allah. So this is sort of a Sufi understanding, but we won't really go into that. Um, let's stick to um, the regular understanding. So Tawheed, the idea of the uniqueness and the oneness of Allah, has three aspects. Now, there's a standard kalam way of discussing this. We're not going to go into that, okay? And we're not going to go into the detailed proofs until the second module of this class, where we're studying Kharidatul Bahiyya. So I don't want to overwhelm you guys with, 10 different breakdowns and all this other stuff, right? But it's still the same idea. Still the same idea. These three aspects that I'm about to mention, some people you will hear, okay? Some people say that, oh, these are innovated. These are not actually, Sunnis don't use these. That's false. That's false. I mean, you can find this in many, many Sunni texts, okay? And there's nothing wrong with this breakdown at all, okay? So there are three aspects of Tawheed. The first is that Allah is the only caretaker and sustainer of all of existence. And this is what we call Tawheed ar-Rububiyyah. that Allah is the only Rabb. And we'll discuss this word in detail actually. And the second aspect of Tawheed is if Allah is Rabb, if He is the only caretaker of all of existence, He's the only Khaliq, okay? The only creator. He creates out of nothing, okay? He owns everything completely. He sustains everything by himself completely, every single last detail. Now, this being, okay, this being that does this, I mean, what is this type of being? He's a being that can only be described with the perfect names and attributes. Wouldn't you say so? Like for example, if you were not perfect, could you create something perfect?
Yeah.
If you didn't have perfect knowledge, you wouldn't be able to create the universe. If you didn't have perfect capability and kudra, right? Perfect power, you would not be able to maintain every single thing. If you didn't have perfect mercy, right? All these different attributes, okay? So the one who is Rabb, in truth, is the one who is described with the most perfect names and attributes. And who is the one that deserves worship innately? It's the only one that deserves worship innately is the one who has complete perfect attributes. And remember, we discussed essences and attributes. Remember, like 3 classes ago? What is an attribute? You guys remember? It's a quality, right? So, for example, um, I am generous. So generosity is a attribute. Okay. So, but essence is what? Essence is just uh, brother Naz. Okay. Naz, like the idea of brother Naz is the essence, and then Naz is generous. Naz is stingy. Naz is XYZ. These are all what? Attributes. Okay. So the one who is Rabb is the one who is described with all perfect attributes. And the one you worship has to be a being that has perfect attributes. Okay? Even, the object of our love. When we love someone, okay, when we love someone, we are loving some certain attributes in that person or thing. Okay, I know, like we grew up watching like romance movies and whatever it is, right? That, what do they usually say in those movies? That you love someone regardless of whatever it is, okay? Regardless, even if they're the worst person in the world, even there's nothing in that person. It's just you in mentally, you're just loving that person, okay? Pure, unconditional love. Now, there's no such thing, okay? There's absolutely no such thing. You love things because of some sifatul kamal, because of some beautiful thing that you see in that thing. Okay? Can you clarify why only one with perfect names can create perfection? Uh, a perfect score. What do you mean by a perfect score?
Like on a test or something, like for example, if you take a quiz, I mean, that's a
Mm.
perfect score. So that's not by intention, it's not by perfection. Imperfect
Mm.
creature or creation can have a perfect
Well,
manifestation.
right, yeah. So I mean, let's talk about this. For example, let's say you have a machine, okay? You have a machine that is supposed to produce a a toy, let's say, like an arm's leg, a 3D printer, whatever it is. Now, if that machine is defective, will it produce a the thing that it was designed to do?
No.
No, never, right? So that machine must be in perfect working order to produce the thing that it's supposed to do. So that's just one example.
Mm,
And in terms of the universe, the scale of the universe, right? The interconnected of the universe, the wisdom in the universe, the design, all of these different things, and also creation out of nothing, right? Creation out of nothing. These cannot happen except with a being that has perfect power. Perfect power meaning he has complete control over every single last detail of every single thing that he's created,
mm,
right? So this is why the creator of the universe has to have perfect power. And you can't have perfect power without perfect knowledge. Okay? Like whatever you do, the principle is whatever you do requires knowledge, whether directly or indirectly. Whatever happens, anything within our actions, it's a logical axiom that you cannot do something without knowledge. Something cannot be done except that there is knowledge to do that thing. Okay? So when something is done, you have to ask yourself, who actually knows about this thing that is being done? How has this thing come about? Okay? So the one who has perfect power also has to have perfect knowledge of how to execute that power. Okay? So, and the one who maintains all of these things, he is complete, he's the one who sustains and maintains. So he is a Rabb. So therefore, he is described with all the perfect names. Okay? And the one that we worship has to be the one that is described with perfect names, that has complete perfect qualities. All right? Because anything else is not a God. Anything else cannot be the Rabb of the universe. Okay, I'm not really giving a Kalami proof here, right? This is more of there's a different approach that I'm taking. Inshallah, in the second part of it, we're going to talk about necessary existence. In the next topic, we're going to talk about the proofs for Allah. Okay, so Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Okay, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. And as we said, we love things because of the qualities that we find beautiful in them. Okay. We love things because of the qualities that we find beautiful in them. They could be things that are imperfect. Okay, they could be things that, might even give us pain. But we love things or someone because of some quality that we find within them or we think that there is in them that we enjoy, that we love, we find beautiful. And so the one worthy of worship has to have objectively the most beautiful and perfect qualities that there could ever be. If he has power, he has complete and utter power. If he is holy, he is the holiest thing that there ever is. If he is the most loving, he's the most loving that there ever is. Okay? If he is merciful, he's the most merciful that there ever is. You see? So this is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed, his perfect qualities, we call Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. That no one can have any of his sifat other than him. So his mercy, Ar-Rahman, it can only ever apply to this being, this perfect being, Ar-Rahman. Okay? This is why it's actually haram to name your children Ar-Rahman. Okay? Ar-Rahman. You can't name a child Ar-Rahman. You can name them Rahman, okay? Just like mercy. But Ar-Rahman, the merciful. You can't do it. Okay? And most people have names like that like for example, uh, I don't know, like Waliyu Rahman. Waliyu Rahman. So the friend of the Rahman. Okay? Those are fine. But you shouldn't call like, Ar-Rahman somebody or a name of Allah like that. So, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, he is the only Rabb, only sustainer, only creator from nothing. And this necessitates Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. Is described with the most perfect names and attributes. Okay? And when he's described with the perfect names and attributes, it's a necessary connection that he is the only one worthy of worship, only one worthy of devotion and worship. So these three things cannot be separated. They cannot be what? They cannot be separated. There's never a situation in which someone has complete and perfect Tawheed ar-Rububiyyah. I believe that Allah is the sustainer. He is the caretaker. He is the one who provides for all of the things in the universe. He's the one who created everything out of nothing. Okay? Nothing happens in the universe except through his will. And then I believe this perfectly. And then somehow I think somebody else is worthy of worship. Does this make any sense? So, for example, like Allah, for let's say the statue. Allah is the one who gave me the power to make the statue, and now I'm worshiping, you're worshiping the statue. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Or I say Allah He's the complete Rabb. He created everything without any type of intermediation. He controls everything, and now somebody else has the perfect quality of Rahmah, a creation. Does it make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. So we'll get into the topic of worship. That's a long discussion. Okay. So I'm just giving you a taste for now. Okay. So it doesn't make any sense. So these three concepts are interlocked. Interlocked. If you affirm that Allah is the only caretaker, only creator, only Rabb of all of existence, okay, then it necessitates that you think that this being is the most perfect being with the most perfect qualities. Okay? And that necessitates that you only can worship this being. So these three concepts can never ever be separated. Okay? And there, Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the things that he sort of brought as a new thing in the religion is that he seemed to say that these things could be separated. That the Meccans, the kuffar of Quraysh, that they believed in Tawheed al-Rububiyyah perfectly, but they just disagreed over Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, the one worthy of worship. And this is a very problematic idea, and we'll discuss why it's problematic. But in according to us, the Sunnis, it's impossible to separate these three ideas. Impossible. And if anybody separates these three ideas, then we say that like if somebody actually says, I believe, okay, perfectly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who creates everything, does everything, everything, right? But the stone is worthy of worship. Khalas, you've left Islam. Okay? You've left Islam. Now let's really look into the meaning of Rabb, because this is a very um, interesting word and also sometimes controversial. Okay? So Imam al-Qurtubi, he says, وَالرَّبُّ السَّيِّدُ وَمِنْهُ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى اذْكُرْنِي عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ. So Sayyid, the master, the one who owns things. And this is from the Quran, اذْكُرْنِي عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ, where Yusuf alayhi salam, he's saying, mention me to your master. Okay? وفي الحديث أن تلد الأمة ربتها أي سيدتها وقد بيناه في كتاب التذكرة والرب المصلح والمدبر والجابر والقائم. Okay? So a Rabb is the one who muslih, he's the one who looks after you for the best interest. Wal mudabbir, the one who maintains and sustains everything. Al jabir wal qa'im, the one who keeps everything up. Okay? The one who keeps everything up. So when you say that a man, okay, is the Rabb of the house, okay? Not ar-Rabb. Ar-Rabb is only used for Allah. But a man is the Rabb of the house. That he is Rabbud Dar. So, what are some of the meanings contained within this? What do you guys think? So, we just said Al-Muslih, the one who looks after the well-being. Al-Mudabbir, the one who maintains, right? And then Wal-Jabir wal-Qa'im, the one who keeps everything standing. So, what do you think if I say a man is the Rabb of the house? He's Rabbud Dar. What does that mean?
He's the owner of the house, and he sustains and manages it.
Yeah, so being the owner of the house, like a true understanding of ownership means what? You're maintaining and sustaining it. You see? So there's no idea of like, in Islam, like you just have a label called owner or master and you just sit back and do nothing. There's no such thing. Okay? To deserve the understanding that you are owner, okay? And this is even in our personal life too. You have a room, okay? I know a lot of you guys. You have a room. You're the Rabb al-Ghurfa, okay? You're the Rabb of that room. If it really belongs to you, that room will be spotless. You will maintain that room. You will design it in the best way possible. Okay? You will make it into a space that is beautiful. Okay? And when you're doing this, you are manifesting the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. Okay? Or you have a car or whatever it is. You have clothes and you manage them properly, you take care of them. Okay? This is really showing your ownership of them. Okay? Ownership is linked to care, to management, to sustenance. You guys understand? So, if we divert any of these ideas to anything other than Allah, then this is what shirk involves. Okay? So, to summarize it, there are three core ideas within the word Rabb. Okay, three core ideas. And we get this from the ayah of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanalladhi lam yattakhidh waladan wa lam yakun lahu sharikun fil mulki wa lam yakun lahu waliyyun min adh-dhulli wa kabbirhu takbira. In Surah Al-Isra. Okay? That there are three core ideas contained within the word Rabb. Allah is Rabb. It means He is Al-Khaliq, so Khalq, creation from nothing. Creation from nothing. Can anyone claim to be Rabb in this meaning? What do you think? Even Fir'aun, did he claim this meaning?
No.
Impossible. Impossible. This is why Fir'aun, Allah gave Fir'aun miracles. Okay? Because if you have well, they're not miracles, they're called istidraj, right? But this man is claiming to be God. Okay? If you have a sound mind, you know that the Lord of the universe is the one who creates out of nothing. He creates like he doesn't need things to create. He creates effortlessly. So now if you see a human being claiming this, if you're a person with sound mind, you're not sort of inflicted by bias or emotions or whatever, would you ever think a person is God? Just think about it for a minute. In this meaning, like he creates out of nothing. Would you ever confuse
Impossible.
it?
Impossible.
Impossible. I mean, you could just go up to him and say, "Hey, can you just make me like $1 million?" Like you're God, right? Like we ask genies this all the time. Hey man, like I'm poor. Can you just make me $1 million out of thin air? He can't do it. He can't do it. So how are you God? Okay? So no one really with a sound mind can ever confuse al-khalq, part of rububiyyah, with anybody in creation. This is why there's no harm if a person, a fool that's claiming to be God, he's given istidraj to misguide him further. Okay? But a person who is a prophet, a true prophet, he must be given proper miracles. Okay? Because people can mistake a false prophet versus a true prophet. Okay, we'll talk about that later when we talk about miracles. Okay? So Rabb, khalq, creation from nothing, complete perfect creation. The second meaning is al-mulk, complete and utter ownership. Ownership. Okay? There's these two things. Sorry, mulk is something that human beings can claim. Ownership. Because ownership, in sense, is just a concept. It's a concept. Okay? A right. Okay? So the king, let's say Genghis Khan or whoever, Alexander the Great. I own the East and the West. Okay, can Alexander the Great claim it? I mean, he can claim, I'm saying, can he just claim it? Is it a logical claim? Like, can you understand it? What do you guys think? Like America, we own the northern the we own Latin America, you know? Nothing goes in or out without our surveillance, basically. Is it illogical? Yeah, you can claim it theoretically. Exactly. You can claim it. A king can claim it. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has true mulk. True mulk because he created out of nothing. He created out of nothing. So his mulk is the complete and utter ownership. But this third thing, no king can claim. No one ever in the history of mankind can ever claim it, which is complete at-tadbir, complete sustenance and management by himself, by Allah. Okay? A king, Donald Trump, let's say, uh, uh, he claims that he controls America, he controls XYZ, but is he the one physically doing the tadbir, doing the sustenance, doing the management, or does he need to rely on people? What do you guys think?
He has to rely on people,
He has
obviously.
to rely on, I mean, the civil service is huge. There's a government shutdown now, right? He
Mm.
wants to do certain things, like he wants to put a statue of himself in DC, whatever. He can't do it. He can't do it. There are people blocking him left and right, you know? He needs to go through different channels. Okay, he's trying to reconstruct the United States Army. There are generals that don't like him, this, that. Okay, so a king can claim a complete control over a country, and but they're not the one sustaining it and managing it. It's impossible. They need to rely on intermediaries to manage the affairs of their kingdom. This is the idea that the Quraysh had about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the person who uh, creates, okay? He is the person who owns everything, ultimately, but he's too weak. Na'udhu billah, this is what the Quraysh believed, to actually do tadbir, to sustain and manage all of existence. It's too big. So he creates intermediaries. Sorry, not he creates. So there are intermediaries that he takes advantage of to, manage the world. This is the world of paganism. It's the world of what? Paganism. If you look at all the famous pagan religions, obviously the Greek paganism comes to mind. They believe in one God, actually. So Aristotle has proofs for the existence of one God. But this God is not a God that you and I recognize. This God is just the first cause. And from this cause, from this primordial soup that this first God is, who's the foundation of existence, sort of creates, out comes these different heavenly beings. And these heavenly beings are the ones who administer the world. Okay? They administer the world. And this original God has nothing to do with it. You understand? So this is the idea of paganism. And if you need something, you go to these heavenly beings. All right? But to assign, to ever say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires something or someone to administer the world, to do khalq, to have mulk, okay, to provide, this takes you out of Islam. It takes you what? Out of Islam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who directly, as in right now, you drink a tea right here. This direct instance, my thirst has been quenched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what I experienced is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this moment. Okay? It's not the tea, nothing else. Okay, these are just veils. As Nursi rahimahullah, he says, these are veils between him and creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates. Because the truth of Tawheed is too luminous. It's too awesome, okay, for the regular human being to behold. Okay? So khalq, mulk, at-tadbir. Okay? Now, here's a question for you guys. What about angels? What about prophets? Do angels manage the creation?
No.
Yes, to a degree.
So, I mean, doesn't that just contradict what I just said? That Allah is the one who directly manages it?
They're the suburb, though.
What does that mean?
They're they're the manifestation of the will of Allah subhanahu.
Good, good, good. So they manage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did, is it because of a need that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created angels?
No,
No. He doesn't need angels. He doesn't need anything else, right? Nothing. He, in fact, creates the angels from moment to moment. Okay? So he doesn't need angels, he doesn't need prophets, nothing, right? If there were no prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have directly just, downloaded a Quran into our hearts. He doesn't need any of that, okay? But rather, he willed for these things to happen. He wanted to create angels so that he made them, okay? And then he sort of, you take care of the weather. What that really means is you think you take care of the weather. Allah's creating the weather. Allah's creating everything. But this angel is linked to the weather just as a sabab, a type of cause, okay, an apparent cause. But it's not the reality of the situation. Okay, so nothing can come in between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and creation without His permission. Without His permission. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to forgive somebody, you can't say, oh, the king, he's this person has an influence over the king. So I'm going to go to this person to gain favor with the king. This is what the Meccans thought when they were worshiping their idols. يُقَرِّبُنَا إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. That we don't worship them except to get closer to Allah. This is what they were thinking. That, oh, this God or this person has some buy-in with the king. Okay, so Trump's daughter or whoever, they speak into his ear, he's favorable to them. So I'm going to go to this person and talk with the king. Okay, and this person can manipulate the king to agree with me. This is never ever allowed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It can never happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned a person, okay, and he accepts their shafa'ah. So, for example, the Prophet ﷺ informs us that the Prophet ﷺ will be the great intercessor on the Day of Judgment. And so, is this because the Prophet ﷺ somehow, na'udhu manipulated Allah to change his mind? What do you think?
No.
No, because Allah's the one who allowed the Prophet ﷺ to be an intercessor. He's the one, okay? So that the rank of the Prophet ﷺ can be even more elevated. So no one can be an intercessor, no one can be a well-wisher with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except through his permission. Okay? Except through his permission. And this is the same with the angels. Okay? All right. So this is the meaning of Rabb, and that will make everything else, inshallah, easier for us when we talk about some other things. Now it's 12:19. Class is supposed to end at 12:30. Okay? Class is supposed to end at 12:30. So I think we extended 30 more minutes. The first 15 we were doing a quiz. Okay, so now here's a very famous question, and I'll just sort of touch on this. I won't go into too much detail. I'll go into the detail in the Kalam class, right? In the Kalam class, we'll give proofs for Tawheed. Why can't we say that there are multiple gods? Why can't we believe like the Hindus do? Okay, so in the second module, we'll go into two famous proofs called Burhan at-Tamanu and Burhan at-Tawarud. I know, Brother Soeb, you're itching for all the juicy content. Okay, so we're gonna, it's gonna be very nice, very tasty, and the second module, inshallah, for all the geeks in the class, including myself. I'm a geek too. But we won't go into those right now. Okay, we need like diagrams and things like that. So everyone understood the meaning of Rabb. Khalq, creation from nothing. Mulk, complete and utter ownership. Okay, this is why if you actually believe in secular law, you've left Islam. If you like believe it, believe it. Not that, like the law that we have is just a estimation of the Sharia, like the will of Allah, like this is how Allah wants the society to run. Not that. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying even in some cases, even some Christian countries have this type of idea, right? We call it natural law, all right? But if you believe, oh, law has nothing to do with religion, absolutely no, nothing to do with religion. Religion is just a figment of people's imaginations. This law is objective. Okay, this leads takes you out of the fold of Islam. Okay, because again, mulk, Allah has complete and utter ownership of all of existence, including your society. So you have to base your society from the values of revelation, the values of revelation in Islam. And tadbir, complete sustenance and management. If you believe anything in creation is sustaining you and managing you other than Allah, khalas. Okay? And then we're gonna get to the question of, but what if, some Muslims they ask certain things from angels? We're gonna get to that juicy topic of istighatha. Okay? Some Muslims might, they might ask for things, like, "Oh Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, can you ask Allah to forgive me?" Okay, we're gonna get to that. Okay, we're gonna get to that controversy, and inshallah, we'll clear it up completely. There can be no ambiguity in aqidah. We have to clear that up completely, inshallah. And I will give you a lot of evidence. It's gonna be overwhelming, but I need it to be crystal clear in everyone's mind. What is the truth and what is false, inshallah. So this is the meaning of Rabb. Okay, how does Rububiyyah manifest in the world? How does it manifest? And this is the insight of Sayyid Nursi rahimahullah ta'ala. There's one God, and He's sustaining all of it. Okay? There's one God, He's sustaining all of it. Okay? So how is oneness reflected in the multiplicity of existence? And Sayyid Nursi rahimahullah, he comes up with two concepts. I mean, these concepts already exist in Islam, right? But he's just giving them different names. The first is called wahidiyya, unity. Okay? how Allah manifests His complete unity to the rest of existence. And the way that we can see the proof for this unity in the rest of existence is that we see that the source of existence is one. The source of existence is one. And an example of this is, for example, the sun and its light. Okay? The sun and its light. If I laid down, let me actually use the second example, right? Rain. Okay, rain. There's only one source of rain. The apparent source we see is the sky. Okay, the apparent source we see is the sky. But does the rain discriminate on who, like where it falls? What do you guys think? It falls everywhere at the same time. Okay, it just falls everywhere uniformly. It doesn't discriminate like, if rain is falling, it doesn't say, oh, this guy, he doesn't deserve rain. So, the rain just stops and then moves to the other side. It doesn't do that. It's general, it's everywhere. Okay? So the source of the rain is one, but it goes to everything. Same thing, the light of the sun is from the sun. Okay? There's one source of that light, but everything takes that light in. It falls on every single thing, regardless of if it's dark, if it's green, if it's blue. It doesn't matter what type of color those things are. The sunlight goes to everything. But the source of the light is one. The source of the light is the sun. Wahidiyya. So in the same way, the source of creation, the source of all the beautiful qualities that we see in the world is only one. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is His unity. And then there's something called oneness, ahadiyya, that Nursi talks about. And what this means is that, yes, the source of the light is one. The source of the beautiful attributes, mercy, generosity, charity, all these things, they come from one source only, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But based on what object or what creature or whatever it is that the light is shining on, that creature will reflect that light in a unique way. That creature will what? Reflect that same light in a unique way. So, for example, you can think of a mirror that's perfectly polished. If the same light falls on the mirror, what are you going to see in the mirror? It's a polished mirror, right? What will you see? The light is perfectly reflected back, right? Now, let's say another mirror. Another mirror, it has some dust on it. There's some spots on it. The same exact light falls on that mirror, what will you see? You will see a different image, right? You will see a poor reflection. You see? So that the individual qualities of those objects, they reflect the light differently. This is the uniqueness of each thing. But the uniqueness is coming from the light itself as well, right? The light is reflecting, and this unique thing is reflecting its own unique thing. Okay? So, and this is the way in which Allah's attributes reflect uniquely on every single creation. It's the same mercy, it's the same justice, it's the same forgiveness, it's the same whatever the attribute of Allah is being reflected. It's the same creative power, okay, the same rizq. But each individual creature will reflect that attribute in a different, unique way. Okay? And another example of this is rain. Rain is water. Rain falls on everything. Yet, a rose, an apple tree, an animal, human being, they receive this rain in a different way, in its own unique way. Okay? So this can only happen if there's only one creator that is the source of all these things, and one creator that created all those individual other things too. Okay? One creator that is the source of the light, and one creator that is the source of all the mirrors as well. Okay, and this is, you'll see this in a very beautiful verse of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي الْأَرْضِ قِطَعٌ مُتَجَاوِرَاتٌ وَجَنَّاتٌ مِّنْ أَعْنَابٍ وَزَرْعٌ وَنَخِيلٌ صِنْوَانٌ وَغَيْرُ صِنْوَانٍ يُسْقَى بِمَاءٍ وَاحِدٍ وَنُفَصِّلُ بَعْضُهَا عَلَى بَعْضٍ فِي الْأُكُلِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. And on the earth there are different neighboring tracts of vegetation, gardens of grapevine, various crops, palm trees, some stemming from the same root, others standing alone. They are all irrigated with the same water. You see? So there's tremendous variety in creation from Allah's rububiyyah, but they all come from the same water. So Allah's saying there's one source, but there's all this variety. And that can only happen with a willing, alive, and single creator. Okay? That can only happen with that. We make some taste better than others. Surely in this are signs for those who understand. Okay, so let's look at the time. 12:28. So inshallah, I'll stop here and just keep the idea of rububiyyah in your mind. Okay? Because we're going to come back to this the next lecture, and we're going to really talk about worship. Okay, so there's some Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, and there's another group which is a very dangerous group in Islam called the Wahhabi group, which they have a different idea of what worship means. And based on this definition, there's a giant rift that has been created in the Muslim Ummah. Okay, and they have some very good points for sure, but at the same time, it has led to some giant rifts, and we're going to understand this concept very, very well. Okay, we defined what the Rabb means. We're going to define what Ilah, God, what that means, and we're going to define what worship means, and we're going to see that the Quraysh, okay, the Prophet ﷺ was giving dawah to those pagans. The Quraysh are not the same as certain deviant Muslims. They can never ever be compared with a deviant Muslim at all. Okay? You can still be a Muslim, commit a lot of sins, be deviant, have problems, certain things in your belief, but there are certain things that take you out of Islam and certain things that keep you within Islam. So we'll talk more about that inshallah next class. Um, so with that, any questions? No questions? Okay, inshallah. I'll see you guys next week.
Inshallah.
Um,
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.